والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد أيها الإخوة أحييكم بتحية الإسلام السلام عليكم ورحمة الله ونسأل الله تعالى أن يغفر لنا ذنوبنا ويكفر عنا سيئاتنا نسأله بعلم نافع ورزق واسع وعليه نتوكل وإليه المصير ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصل اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Praise be to Allah. We begin by praising Him, sending peace and prayers on His final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And after greeting you, we ask Allah for His forgiveness. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us useful knowledge and understanding and wide sustenance. On Him we utterly depend, and to Him is our goal and our return. Continuing where we left off, we were still on the introduction, the tashrih of the introduction of Imam Nawawi to his Arba'in, his 40 Hadith collection, and towards the end of it. The stage I left it as was the issue to do with Dhaif Hadith, weak Hadith. And I said I would explain to you the different standing of scholars in regards to Dhaif Hadith and how it's actually become a bit mixed up nowadays amongst the ulama. I'm not talking about now the general public. It's not their responsibility. But why has it become mixed up? Some of the reasons. Firstly, before I go to the hadith issue, I should mention to you, as I mentioned before, that on the 40 hadith we're doing a tashrih, a sharh. Sharh is like tafsir. Tafsir in terminology became to be used for the Quran. Yeah. But actually tashrih or sharh is the same meaning as tafsir. Okay, so terminologically, when ulama and imams talk in Arabic about doing an exposition of Quranic ayat, they say tafsir. They don't say tashrih, which is the same thing actually. That's the same thing, but it comes to be linked. You don't say tafsirul hadith, just as terminologically. It's fine to say it, but we tend to use the word sharh. So all the shuruh or shara'ih that have been done before, the ulama use sharh al-arba'in al-nawawiyya, the exposition of the ahadith of Imam Nawawi. To clarify, of course, it's become famously known as the 40 hadith of An-Nawawi. That's not its title. Of course, Imam Nawawi didn't call it that. So for completion, I should mention the title to you of Imam Nawawi, who called it Al-Arba'in fi Mabani al-Islam wa Qawaid al-Ahkam. Al-Arba'in fi Mabani al-Islam wa Qawaid al-Ahkam. That's what he called it. 40 hadith. He says 40. He means 40 hadith. He didn't say the word hadith in the title. Everybody knows it's 40 hadith because that's what he put together. So 40, meaning hadith, on the principles of Islam, mabadi, the very foundations. Remember, that's what we said he's put together. That's what his intention was. And on the rulings to do with legal rulings in Islam. So the foundations to do with legal rulings. These are hadith, are very comprehensive, what he's put together. And we'll talk more about that when we come to the first hadith. So that's the original title. Now, sharh, many expositions have been done. As I mentioned to you, there were into the thousands of those who put together the idea of 40 hadith on various issues before. On the sharh of Imam Nawawi's Arba'in specifically, well over 100 sharh or expositions have been done over the centuries since Imam Nawawi wrote this. It's very famous, of course, very famous. Well over 100 that have been found. Some added to it, some did them in a shortened form, some did them in volume forms, yeah, on taking each hadith and going into detail with it. And amongst those, of course, Imam Nawawi himself did a sharh of his Arba'in, but it's quite mukhtasar, it's quite a short one, maybe 100 pages or so, yeah, compared to many of the other ones which fall into volumes, as I said. So that's interesting, and it's available and it can be referenced as well. And I said to you some of those ones I would refer to. The famous one, of course, is Ibn Rajab's, which I mentioned to you before as well, Jami al-Hikam, which Ibn Rajab's. So that is one that I'll be referencing, because I think it's, and many thought this, many ulama thought that it's a brilliant piece of work, Ibn Rajab's sharh is Arba'in. Remember, he added 10 from himself, or 8 from himself to make it 50, because Imam Nawawi is 42. So he had 8 from himself to make it 50. So that is one that I'll be mostly referring to. Jami al-Ulum al-Hikam fi Sharh 50 Hadithan min Jawami al-Kalim. That's the full title of Ibn Rajab's work. Ibn Rajab, who died in 795 Hijrah. 676 Hijrah, Imam Nawawi dies. So about 100 years later, Ibn Rajab comes, who's Hanbali, not Shafi'i, not like Nawawi, but you know, he takes the hadith which are from the Prophet ﷺ, of course. Others who did, and I mentioned to you, there's a brief work by Ibn Daqiq. I mentioned there's a book, and the Ibn Daqiq one's been translated by the Islamic Foundation, somebody called Mokram, who I met. It's just a pure translation, so it's a brief work, and this is all it is, even in translation, compared to encyclopedias like Ibn Rajab's. It's interesting, and by coincidence I came across on the Imam's line that we have as students of Sheikh Abdullah al-Jadai, somebody sent forward a research to do with this very collection of, it's referred to as Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, his sharh, and there's a research done on that. So to clarify, and really this is printed in 2016, the translator should have looked into this, because this issue has been debated, and one research from at least 2009, and one research has been published more recently in 2016, but he makes no reference to it at all. And this is a big question mark as to, is this work of Ibn Daqiq al-Eid? And actually, the two researches I looked at, research by scholars of manuscripts, etc., I can tell you this is not Ibn Daqiq's sharh. Both come to that conclusion, actually. Both of them come to that conclusion. One of the works was done by a Saudi Sheikh Muhammad ibn al-Qadi, a researcher, who looked at the various manuscripts, and actually two of the manuscripts say Sharh of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, his Sharh, his exposition of the 40 Hadith and Nawawi. So two of the manuscripts mention that. So some came to the conclusion it's actually confused, it's not Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, what they meant was Ibn Hajar al-Haythami. Ibn Hajar al-Haythami is not the same as Asqalani. Ibn Hajar al-Haythami, he died 974, so he's about 100 years later than Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. And al-Haythami is not the same level of muhaddith as Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, I can tell you. Ibn Hajar al-Haythami has his own tashrih of Arba'in al-Nawawi. Yeah, he has his own. And I've been studying part of that from the manuscript, from a book that's available in Arabic, of course, not been translated. Personally, I don't like it, but I'm referencing it. And one of the reasons I don't like it is because he doesn't clarify in most places, even the extra hadith he uses, he doesn't clarify authentic, not authentic, weak. He just comes out with them and the whole issue is around that anyway. So one thing I don't like about his work, he doesn't really do tahqiq of the ahadith that he uses and others that have been used by Imam Nawawi. The second thing about it is Al-Haytami, with the hadith that I mentioned that Imam Nawawi says is daif, and the hadith he uses, whoever memorizes 40 hadith, I discussed this with you, and reported from so many Sahaba, over 13 plus whatever Sahaba, and therefore on appearance it looks like a big mutawatir hadith, so many Sahaba reporting it. Other scholars said very weak. Haytami actually tries to say it is not very weak at all, and we can accept it. And that's not, even though he has some knowledge of hadith as well, Haytami, but not of the caliber of others. So, and not the same caliber of tahqiq of hadith as Nawawi himself was muhaddith as well. But Haytami less so. So he seems to accept that hadith, that it was okay. And actually the hadith, as I told you last time, is not only very weak, it is fabricated. It is mawdu'. Haytami only looks at one aspect of all the chains of the hadith of man hafiza arba'ina hadithan, whoever memorizes, and memorize here means memorizing teaches, in other words, 40 hadith from my ummah. He says the only weakness in majority of the chains is there's a majhul, unknown person, and that's not a big weakness. And actually, no. In every chain there is more than one weakness, as is pointed out by other scholars of hadith of higher caliber from past and present. In fact, Ibn al-Faraj al-Jawzi, Ibn al-Jawzi, not Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawzi, wrote a compilation called Al-Mawdu'at, Fabricated Hadith. He includes this hadith with all its chains in his Mawdu'at, the fabricated hadith. Okay? And Shaykh Abdullah, my teacher, also pointed out, as others have pointed out, scholars of hadith, that in every chain there are liars in hadith, not just majhul. So all the chains can be thrown away as rubbish. That's how bad this hadith narration is. In other words, this hadith clearly is not just daif, not just weak, not even very, very weak. It is fabricated. It is fabricated. So Haytami's analysis, even in his introduction, I don't like his conclusion about it, and shows his level of ilm al-hadith, is tahqiq, which is not of a strong level, in other words. So I just wanted to mention that by the way. Haytami's is available, so I will refer to it. So I was coming back to this. That the conclusion of both scholars' research, and the best one was actually not by Muhammad ibn al-Qadi, but by Muhammad Yaman Diyar al-Bakadli. I don't know him personally, where I can tell you, looking at his research, which was published 2016, it's brilliant. It is more comprehensive than the previous one. In fact, Muhammad ibn al-Qadi came to the conclusion that this is not the Sharh of Ibn Daqiq, but the Sharh of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, the great Shafi'i muhaddith who wrote Fath al-Bari and who died in 852 Hijri, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Nevertheless, I think the best conclusion is a conclusion which Muhammad Yaman Diyar Bakadli came to, published in 2016, his paper. And he had all the 4 manuscripts in Arabic, the original manuscripts, available of this. And when he he did a thorough analysis of the work, not from just its contents, because people who are scholars and study lots of the way Ibn Hajar writes, al-Asqalani, and compared and said this is not him. And is the Sharh Arba'in mentioned in relation to Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani? No, he didn't do. He actually did something, which is he did something to do with the chains of narration of the 40 hadith of An-Nawawi, but not a Sharh Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Okay? And also Ibn Daqiq was actually older than Imam Nawawi. Ibn Daqiq al-Eid was born some years before Imam Nawawi, although died after Imam Nawawi. But he's his counterpart. So whoever's written that work is referring to him as Sheikh Muhyiddin, Sheikh so-and-so. The counterparts don't tend to do that. People who come later recognize him. So he's a contemporary. He's actually older than him. Yeah, he's older than Imam Nawawi in age as well. So he's more like a Sheikh to Imam Nawawi rather than the other way around. Yeah. What the confusion happens is because whoever's done that work in the first hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, somebody's cut and pasted from Ibn Daqiq's work, a different work that Ibn Daqiq does on this on fiqh, actually. Ibn Daqiq's work on in a separate volume, which is referred his work, and they've cut and pasted from that work for the first hadith and put a big chunk of Ibn Daqiq from there. So whoever does a cursory look at it thinks, oh, it's Ibn Daqiq, so the book must be Ibn Daqiq. It's not. In fact, all the ahadith, as Muhammad Yaman points out, you can see that whoever's written this work has mentioned nothing from themselves. They quote from Ibn Daqiq, they quote from Al-Qurtubi, Abu Abbas Al-Qurtubi, they quote from Imam Nawawi's own Sharh. So it's cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste. Everything goes back to different sources. Yeah. So whoever's done it, and it's still in his conclusion not known who's done it. Whoever's done the work, which is Mukhtasar, it's a short work, as I've said to you. It's not Ibn Daqiq, and it's not Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Ibn Farh al-Ashbili is another scholar who did a sharh of Arba'in. Some said his name was attached to one of the manuscripts, that perhaps it's him, but his work is a compendium. So some said it's Mukhtasar, it's a abridged version, but actually, again, it doesn't fit with that either. So I just wanted to mention that, just by passing, that when you come across this work, or Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, Sharh Arba'in al-Nawawi, I believe the best opinion is that Ibn Daqiq al-Eid didn't do a sharh of Arba'in al-Nawawi. So, as I said, well over 100 sharh or expositions of Imam Nawawi's Arba'in have been done from after his time to present day. Some have done present day as well. I have a work which is done by Munajjam, I think he's called. I forgot his name now. He's a Saudi scholar who's actually been put in prison now. His views are interesting though. I don't justify him being put in prison, of course. Salman al-Awda, who's done some brilliant works and is more of a moderate and balanced Saudi scholar, he's in prison as well. But Munajjam's views are quite harsh and strict in regards to women especially, and in regards to other issues, women driving haram according to Munajjam's view, etc., etc. There are a few other views that are quite eye-popping, but I think that tinge of his harshness, when I looked at the certainly initial part of his work, comes out. His thickness and black and whiteness tends to come out in his sharh or even the first hadith. Now, let me come to the issue of hadith, weak hadith, etc. hadith to be sahih, and this is only just bare minimums I'm giving you of hadith terminology or mustalah al-hadith, has to fulfill 4 criteria. 1, which is musnad. In other words, the chain coming to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Oh, very good, this, I'm afraid. To the narrator who's narrating is all linked. That's what it means. There's no break in the chain. Okay? So when somebody's reporting, that it's necessary that this person must have met that person. And this must have met that person. As Bukhari and Muslim, they always look at this thing. The possibility. It's no point that if this person died 200 years before and C's saying, I heard B say to Akhbarana or some, how can they say it? He died 200 years before, so he never met him. No possibility. Or he lives in a different country in the Muslim land and they never travelled or met each other. So all these things, look, I don't want to go into detail. But basically, the linking of the chain must be there without any break. Second, all these narrators in the chain must be thiqa. Thiqa means adala. They must be trustworthy. They must be trustworthy. Not badly practicing Muslims, not liars, etc., etc. Okay? The third is to do with dhabt or thabit. So they say thiqa thabit. That's to do with that they must have good memories and be correct in what they're transmitting. So ulama of hadith who are critics, they check this sort of thing. They check with what's in their writing, they check with other students who are reporting from the same scholar, the same hadith, see what they're saying. So this is all to do with the science of hadith, how it's built. So they must be accurate in their retention and passing on of the hadith. Okay? So, in other words, if they make mistakes, lots of mistakes, they cannot be relied upon. If most of what they say is full of mistakes, they are thrown away. And the final thing is that it must be free from illa. Illa means an illness, actually. It means a problem with the hadith. Illa could be in any of these, but this illa, it is to do, best definition of it is that when all these are fulfilled, when the first 3 are fulfilled, actually, you say it's an authentic hadith. When the first three are fulfilled. But the best and the greatest critics of hadith are the ones who considered this 4th one. Because what they did was what appears on the surface to be authentic, they then compare authentic hadith with others from reliable narrators to try and see who was making a mistake from the reliable narrators and whether there's a problem in contradicting a Quran or established really authentic hadith. And then they would find a hidden defect in the hadith that is illatul khafiyya, a hidden defect. In other words, this illa idea is in a hadith which apparently appear to be authentic. So it's a deeper analysis of what hadith appear to be authentic. Anyway, these are the criterion of authentic hadith. Any one of these are not fulfilled, the hadith becomes rejected. Sahih becomes maqbool, which means accepted, and if it doesn't fulfill, it becomes mardood, which is rejected. However, now, when people generally talk, and many Imams included, I'm not talking about the lay people now, when they talk about Imams, many Imams, who haven't studied deeply and don't give too much consideration to the difference between Sahih and weak, and I can tell you there are many, many fuqaha and Imams over the whole centuries. Yeah, the ones who really took those things on board of clarifying hadith before coming to conclusions and doing deep analyses were few and far between always. Yeah, few and far between. Otherwise, fuqaha, who specialist area, and they didn't refer to specialists in hadith, they are always coming out with I can book after book, you can go and you can say weak hadith, fabricated. He hasn't pointed it out. I just mentioned to Al-Haytami. Who's taking the 40 hadith Arba'in al-Nawawi and he's coming out with any hadith with no clarification. Is it weak? Is it not? It just mentions it and just puts it in. And he has some background of ilm al-hadith. Anyway, when we talk about mardood, people just say, oh, it means da'if hadith. Actually, no. You can have da'if, jiddan, or mawdu'. And actually, you can have hasan li ghayri. And I'm giving you an overall, because under each of these, there are other categories of hadith people don't know about. Hadith which is munkar, hadith which is mudallas, hadith which is mu'dal, hadith which is, there are many, many terminologies used depending on what the problem is in the hadith for it to become mardood. Yeah, but many people think daif or and they just put it in one category and basket, and actually it's very dangerous to do that, and that's one of the problems why people willy-nilly use hadith, because as we'll see in a minute, they justify it and said, scholars of old said it's alright to use daif hadith in fada'il, virtuous acts, but that caused big problems. That stance caused big problems, but it's very prevalent till this day. Majority of the scholars nowadays have this idea. Majority of the Imams have this idea. And there's big issues with it, because most of them who are saying it have no deep knowledge of ulum al-hadith, and therefore they just use any hadith that comes, like this hadith, man hafidha arba'ina, whoever learns 40 hadith, they'll say, oh, it's just da'if, it's alright. And actually it's not, it's fabricated, but you never looked at any deeper analysis and study of it. You just listened to what somebody else said and just passed it on. And that's what most do. Read the odd book, whatever they've been taught in the Darul Uloom or the Mahad or institute they went to. So whichever book, they just pass on to each other. So no research requires you to go outside that and go into deeper study. Yeah? So you see how things get perpetuated. Yeah? Perpetuated. An Imam used to come, Thomas Holford School. He used to lead us in Tarawih prayers about 10-15 years ago. He studied abroad. He knew, unlike many other Imams, he actually knew Arabic and was fluent in Arabic as well. And I remember he gave a reminder, and he used to come with 2 or 3 of his subordinates, his students, who were also studying Sharia as well. And as a reminder, he mentioned Ashabika Nujum. He said, the Prophet ﷺ said, my companions are like the stars. Yeah? Whichever one of them you follow, اهتديتم. You will be guided. You'll be rightly guided. So whichever one. Very famous hadith. Anybody heard it before? My companions are like the stars. Whichever one of them you follow, you will be guided, rightly guided. It is a very famous hadith. So after his reminder, which which counter his own ideas actually, because if it's true anyway, well, the Hanafi madhab or any madhab really becomes stuck, because they took from one or two Sahaba who went to Kufa, yeah, and I can bring them opinions from other Sahaba, countering them and say, well, sorry, I'm following this Sahabi, yeah, and they'll have a problem with it. He never realized also the consequences of what he's actually saying, because he's smack in the face of their own madhab, and when they're saying, no, this madhab is right, well, you say, no, you just said, Prophet said, Ashabi kan nujum. But I'm following those companions who were in Medina or who were in Mecca, and they differ with those who went to Kufa, where you're getting yours from. You just destroy your own arguments. Nevertheless, afterwards I went to him and I said, do you realize that that hadith that you mentioned is actually, you know where it is? Firstly, I said, you didn't quote the source. You just said hadith of the Prophet, which most imams, if you listen to them, they won't give you the reference. It's fine if you generally give the reference, and sometimes you don't, for shortage of time, but habit of giving the reference. He didn't give any reference. I said, where's its source? Silence. His students around him, sometimes getting all fidgety because I'm asking, and who are you? Of course, I didn't know. I was studying for years as well. I know what I'm saying, so I said, I'll tell you where it is. It is in the book of Abu Faraj al-Jawzi, who I just mentioned, in his book called Al-Mawdu'at, the Fabricated Hadith. That's where it is. Did you know? No. Blank. I said, it's a fabrication. It's not a hadith of Prophet. You haven't even looked at it. So please refrain from quoting fabricated hadith. You've just told the public that the Prophet said that, and because there's Prophet in Mutawatir hadith gave great warning about people quoting him, and it's a lie. It's a lie. The others around him getting a bit shirty, and that's it. It just ended there. But I just wanted him, with respect, to know that be careful what you quote. And that's the thing with famous hadith. Yeah, because it's famous, nobody ever bothered checking. He didn't bother checking whoever taught it to him, and he studied for years, full time. Yeah, that's majority. An example for you. Yeah, studying for years and years because nobody pointed it out actually. Or they'll have got it under the category of, oh, it's daif, and actually it's not daif, it's mawdu'. But they just put it under that category of daif and get away with it because they never differentiate here. Yeah? Because to be able to do that, you need to have access to an alim who's muhaddith, or you need to be muhaddith yourself to be able to say, actually, no, this isn't even daif. This is much worse than that. We don't take this at all.
Reminds me of the WhatsApp people pass on.
Well, all sorts goes on.
It's fake news and they don't even check it.
They don't. Yeah, same thing, same idea. It's human nature, and people do that. And it's easy, isn't it? It's easy to learn. Rote learning is easier than questioning and re-looking and rechecking and thinking. A majority of imams, I'm not exaggerating when I say majority. I don't say minority. I say majority don't use this. They are doing rote learning. So if the person that rote learning from made the mistake, and the one he learned from made the mistake, they're just carrying on perpetuating. So when you then come to questions, oh my God. As I said in Fiqh Sirah we did, I said the age of al-Mu'mineen Khadija being 40, yeah, is a big question mark. There is no evidence for it. It only came from one source, which is Al-Waqidi, who is known as a liar by all muhaddithin. That's the only source. So some people, one or two people here older, they couldn't take it actually. How can you say that? We've always been hearing all our life. She was 40 years old when she married the Prophet ﷺ. I said, you may have been hearing it. Go and ask those you've been hearing it from where they got it from. And they got it from who they got it from. And they just carry on perpetuating. And the source of it, when you do the real research, those who did it, was only one person called Al-Waqidi. Nobody else came with any chain, no hadith, nothing at all. Fabricated. He said it, and he's a liar. Well known. You see what I'm saying? And how well known is that? You question that, and people will start maybe doing curse upon you or something. You know, that's how people behave. They think, oh my God, where's he suddenly come from? And I haven't brought it recently. It's in the old books, but no, your teachers and the teachers of theirs never bother checking. Because it's easy just to carry on with the flow, isn't it? Anyway. Now, so that's the first issue. Yeah? People equilibrating mardud, rejected as under da'if. Ignoring the levels, that even da'if, there is levels. Yeah? Even Hasan li Ghairi is da'if, actually. There's a category called Hasan Hadith, which one type of it is called Hasan li Ghairi. Hasan li Dhati means Hadith fulfills these conditions. There's a problem here in number 3. Problem is here for a Hadith. The Rawi is truthful. Is not a liar. They're truthful. So 1, 2 is corroborated. The problem is here with the third, accuracy. Because this Rawi make mistakes sometimes or many times. So he says Saduq, because they make mistakes, yeah, if they make mistakes sometimes, yeah, everybody makes mistakes occasionally, but many times making mistake, not most of the time, but many times, that person's hadith needs double checking, triple checking. That's the first thing. Yeah? And even then, if it's corroborated from that chain with that person in it, it becomes Hasan. Hasan only, that level. Because that one made a few mistakes. But Hasan hadith doesn't have the same caliber of accepting as evidence as Sahih hadith. Nevertheless, a Hasan hadith, which means good hadith, it's not talking about good because it's nice. Some people think Hasan hadith means, oh yeah, it sounds lovely. Yeah. It's fabricated. But as somebody said to me in a hadith class, when I said, this is a fabricated hadith. I remember about 10-15 years ago, I was teaching hadith in Oldham, and somebody said, Islam. Somebody of knowledge actually, who's been studying Islam and been in dawah work for years, I didn't expect it from them. He said, but it's still a hadith, isn't it? What? He said it's still a hadith, isn't it? Because you use the word hadith. It's still a hadith of the Prophet. I said I'm using the word fabricated hadith to show that it is not a hadith. People are claiming it's a hadith. So this person, firstly, couldn't understand. He said it's still hadith, isn't it? We should still respect it. And some said to me, well, that sounds so nice. It's praising the Prophet, peace be upon him. Surely we should accept it. I said, what? Is that the criteria? That would be called bias. If you're going to go by that criteria, then I will follow my desire and say, well, that fits in with my decision, so I'll accept it. That doesn't, I'll reject it. Yeah? That's not science of hadith. That's called following desire. Yeah? Just because it sounds nice. So Hasan hadith, actually, the way the ulama of hadith looked at Hasan hadith, because of this issue with accuracy, they said, even then, if we say it's Hasan, it's good, not level Sahih, we do not take it as an evidence for coming to any legal ruling on its own. On its own. If we don't have any corroboration from Quran or Sahih ahadith to corroborate what that issue is being mentioned in the Hasan hadith, we do not accept it in legal ruling. We do not accept it in legal ruling. In fact, if it's on its own, it's coming with an issue, a Hasan hadith, which is not mentioned in Quran and hadith, not corroborated by Quran and authentic hadith, Sahih hadith, then actually we reject the hadith because of the accuracy issue. Hasan li Ghairi is a different category. Yeah? And I have issue with it till this day, even though ulama use it, but again they won't use it on its own. Yeah? Hasan li Ghairi means the hadith is actually da'if. But it has another da'if, which is not da'if jiddan or mawdu, the weakness in it, they say, is not, it's all about proportional. So they say, well, another da'if hadith is weakness is not at the same place in the chain as the other one. If we can bring 2 or 3 together, that's a science in itself. Some people, we can say it's Hasan li Ghairi, it's okay. Especially if the issue is already in or Sahih hadith or in the Quran. Yeah? So we can just bring it and use it for learning from. Not to make a legal ruling on its own again. Not to make any legal ruling. That's very important. And many people don't understand that from the ulama, the aima, the imams. They don't. They think that gave them a free ticket to take da'if hadith, and when they come across lots of chains, for example, the chains of man hafidha, whoever learns 40 hadith, they said, oh, many weak chains, bring them together, we have Hasan. It's not like that, willy-nilly. A complete misapplication, which is present day, this confusion, definitely present day. Because the classical scholars did not do that. Did not do that. So, actually, Hasan li Ghairi is da'if hadith. Da'if hadith, which is not so weak, and they have some corroboration, some elements to corroborate. Now, even though, remember Imam Nawawi said in the end he didn't rely on that hadith, he relied on authentic hadith as to why he put the 40 together. He just used 40 just as a small number which wasn't too big. Yeah, he used it in a general sense. He says, قد اتفق العلماء على جواز العمل بالحديث ضعيف في فضائل الأعمال. The ulama have agreed on the permissibility of using weak hadith in virtuous acts. That's the statement of Imam Nawawi. اتفق العلماء gives you the impression that all of them agree on this. It's not true. Yeah, and this is what I want to decipher for you. Because that can give the impression that all ulama, all muhaddithin agreed, and it's decided that we can use this in virtuous acts. Actually, it's not the case. And what does da'if hadith mean? What it means now is not necessarily what it meant. So here's the 3 positions that I want to mention to you, if we get a chance to get through them. Okay. 3 positions. Actually, 1 and 2 are the same, but some people divided them. The first position is that you can use weak hadith in not just in virtuous act. What do you mean by virtuous act? Virtuous act, fada'il, means to say to do something will give you so much reward. To do something is a good thing, blah, 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 but not to give a legal ruling. Legal ruling is to say that this thing is haram. This thing is fard, wajib for you to do. That's not fada'il, by the way. Yeah, that's not fada'il. So fada'il is like encouraging, they say, targhibu tarhib. This is a statement that's used by many ulama, that da'if hadith can be used in targhibu tarhib. What does it mean? Targhib, raghiba, is to encourage people to do good. Tarhib, to make them run away from doing bad. To warn them. So they say targhibu tarhib. So, yeah, and that's why, actually, if you look at the reasons why some fabricators of hadith said from themselves, why did you fabricate this hadith? Is it from the Prophet? No, I made it up. Why? I found, this is in the early times, you're talking about, times of Imam Malik and after that, yeah, you're talking about 2nd, 3rd century, especially after 3rd century, fabricators of hadith. They openly, blatantly say, yeah, I fabricated it. Why? I found people busy with the madhab of Abu Hanifa and the opinions of Thawri and Malik, so I fabricated hadith to do with the virtue, fada'il of this surah and that ayah of the Quran, because I wanted people to come to the Quran. Yeah? So that's in fada'il of surah. Is it good to read the surah of the Quran? Yes. So now they say Fada'il means mentioning virtuous things about the surah. It's all right. Is it? And that's the question here. That's the question here. So actually majority of the things to do with ayat, majority, not everything, to do with particular ayat and surahs having so and so and done this and that, majority of them are fabricated or very weak. This is one of the areas that Muhaddithin warn about. So, one category of people claim, present day, that you can use the hadith, weak hadith, da'if hadith, and they don't clarify, just say da'if hadith, and people thinking all these here, when you say da'if, even those who saying it, can use it unrestrictedly. Why? Because Ahmad ibn Hanbal and Abu Dawood, they used it like that, and they said it's fine. Okay? Why? Because Ahmad said, it is quoted, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who was the founder of the Hanbali madhab, but also great muhaddith, who died in 241 Hijri, and Imam Bukhari died in 256, so they're same time. Ahmad ibn Hanbal is a teacher of Tirmidhi, a teacher of Abu Dawood, the ones who put the hadith together as well. Musnad ibn Hanbal, I mentioned to you already. So he's muhaddith. He says, a weak hadith, da'if hadith, is more loving to me than a person's opinion. A weak hadith is more loving to me than a person's opinion. Abu Dawood, people said, if he did not find a Sahih hadith or a Hasan hadith when he's doing compiling his Sunan, he would record a da'if hadith rather than a person's opinion. Okay? It is well known that Ahmad preferred a weak hadith than qiyas before he went to qiyas, analogy. He preferred a weak hadith. So this is the evidence that they use for this opinion. So, along comes the issue here is what is da'if for Ahmad. Ibn al-Qayyim, Ibn Taymiyyah, who are Hanabila, Hanbali madhab, they follow Ahmad's madhab. They're muhaddithin as well. Ibn Taymiyyah, who's a teacher of Ibn al-Qayyim, al-Jawziyah, they point out. Ibn al-Qayyim and Ibn Taymiyyah says, Ibn al-Qayyim says, da'if hadith for Ahmad is what is Hasan hadith after the time of Tirmidhi. Tirmidhi is a student of Ahmad ibn Hanbal. So when Ahmad says it is da'if, he doesn't mean any of these. He's talking about Hasan hadith. Because Ibn Taymiyyah says, in Ahmad's time, they only had Sahih and Da'if, and all those under the Da'if. They didn't have a category called Hasan. Those with some mistakes, but they are good narrators. They're Hasan hadith once it's been thoroughly checked. So for Ahmad, what he meant by using Da'if hadith, Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim say the category Hasan was clarified and put in terminology by Tirmidhi, who comes after Ahmad. And Ahmad's hadith, which Da'if he used, were actually Hasan. So a good hadith. And he would only use them, as I said earlier on, if he had some basis from Quran and authentic hadith to use the Hasan hadith. So he's actually not using Da'if as you understand it and I understand it. Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim are pointing this out from what? They were around in the 8th century. Yeah? So from about 600 plus years ago, they pointed this out. So that we wouldn't fall into this trap. They're saying, and the Hanbalis, that Ahmad didn't use weak hadith. He used Hasan hadith. With a proviso. Abu Dawood, as somebody said, pointed out, just because Abu Dawood in his collection puts Sahih hadith and Hasan hadith and then put some Da'if hadith, Of course, his collection is sunan. He's not going to put opinions of people in there, is he? That doesn't mean that he's giving priority to da'if hadith over opinion of people, because his collection is sunan. It's a collection of hadith. And actually, in most cases, Abu Dawud points out the weakness in weak hadith, which shows he's not accepting it. So it's a poor argument to say Abu Dawud in his sunan puts sahih, hasan, and he also puts da'if there. He puts da'if and points out that it's da'if. What do you want him to do? He's pointing out this is da'if, which counters your argument, actually. So, this is what Ibn Hajar said about Abu Dawud. I'm not saying it. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, the great muhaddith, yeah, a Shafi'i, who's mentioning about Abu Dawud. He said it's not showing that Abu Dawud accepts da'if hadith in ahkam. So the first argument is completely destroyed. It's a very weak argument, totally unacceptable, and actually it really is linked with the second argument, which Jumhur took from 3rd and 4th century onwards, in saying that weak hadith are accepted in fada'il, in virtuousness of deeds. Virtuousness of good deeds which are already established from authentic hadith and the Quran. So to say you'll be rewarded so many times, but the deed is good, yeah, it's self-established. The danger is people mix this up and actually from weak hadith or very weak bring new things into it, which causes a problem. Ibn Hajar, even though this was a Jumhur opinion about using weak hadith, look what Ibn Hajar puts conditions on the use of da'if. Not these, da'if. He's talking as an alim of hadith. He knows what he's talking about when he's saying da'if. He's not saying all rejected hadith. He's talking about those with little weakness. Follow me? Present day people who come out with this claim, this very claim, the second one, don't even bother looking. They just think da'if. Okay? So Ibn Hajar says, if you're going to use a da'if hadith, first, point out that it is da'if. So when you're in the mimbar, you're not allowed to say, this is what the Prophet ﷺ said, and you know it's da'if. You have to say, one of the other conditions he says, don't say the Messenger of Allah said. Say, it is reported, and it is weak, even if you're going to use it. Yeah, that's one condition. Second, he said, don't use da'if jiddan. Ibn Hajar is saying that centuries ago. Yeah. Third, don't use the da'if. It has no basis at all from Quran or authentic Sahih hadith. Don't use it at all. Has no basis. Yeah? Because it has no basis, it becomes munkar. Munkar means da'if jiddan, rejected. Yeah? As a lie. And he said also, it almost negates using it actually. Ibn Hajar says, if it says you're going to get reward 700 this and 600 this, don't expect the reward. Because it's not true. Because it's not true. Because it's da'if. Yeah? Okay? And if it doesn't contradict Hasan and Sahih. So this is... So why do I mention this? Because some people claim, and you get the impression from Imam Nawawi when he said, قَدْ اتَّفَقَ الْعُلَمَاء. The ulama have agreed on this. Yeah? So you get the idea, there's ijma' on it. اتَّفَقَ الْعُلَمَاء. Al-ulama means all ulama have agreed that using da'if in fada'il is acceptable. So some people claim ijma' like that, and actually it's not true. Because those they give reference to are the ones who gave reference in the first category. Ahmad again, Imam Nawawi, Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi. Yeah, going back to Ahmad. And I already clarified for you that Ahmad actually used Hasan hadith. He never used da'if hadith. His category, Ibn Taymiyyah, and I told you already, Ibn al-Qayyim points out, was actually he was using Hasan hadith, not Daif. Even in Fada'il, even in virtuousness of good acts. And it is very clear that he did not use it in legal rulings, ahkam. Ibn Taymiyyah, Hanbali, even though Ahmad is using Hasan, but Ibn Taymiyyah is arguing against, as Ibn Qayyim argues as well, against the idea of using weak hadith in his Majmu' al-Fatawa, his famous work. He's the teacher of Ibn Qayyim. He says, why not using weak hadith even in Fada'il? And then we come to the third opinion, which is rejecting weak hadith, right, in any kind of thing to do with Islam, even if to say it's in virtuousness. And I think that is the best position. I follow that best opinion. And that is the opinion of Yahya ibn Ma'in, who was around at the time of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, contemporary, also muhaddith, especially muhaddithin have this opinion. Abu Hatim, Abu Zurat al-Raziyain, al-Bukhari, Muslim, Ibn al-Arabi, al-Shawkani, Ibn Hazm, all these, and it's a view that Ibn Taymiyyah is inclined more to. Because if you say using it in Fada'il and virtuousness, it causes a problem. Problem number one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear in the Quran not to follow conjecture. إِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا. Surely conjecture has no value at all before haqq. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describe as guidance that is coming through the messengers? As haqq. Is it based on conjecture? It raises a question, therefore, why did Allah and His messenger, or why did Allah actually leave us to rely on conjecture, weak hadith? Did He not complete His deen and look after it? Where Allah says in the Quran, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikr. Surely we are the ones who sent the dhikr, the reminder. And ulama, all of them agreed that this dhikr that we have sent down is the Quran and the Sahih Sunnah. Wa inna lahu lahafidun. And we, Allah saying, and we will surely be one who protect it. So why did Allah not protect it and left it in Da'if hadith? You understand? So you're raising a big problem when you say we need Da'if hadith for virtuous act. You're trying to say Allah left a hole empty, and if we can take that kind of conjecture, then we can take other conjecture as well. So it's a very dangerous position, actually. And Fadail, it causes an imbalance secondary, because if you make lots of hadith to do with do this and you get 700, do this, do dhikr, do this, and and that's what happened to people. People started making themselves busy with things which actually not come from authentic hadith. They'll give you 700 times this reward, 700, but they thought, oh yeah, it's doing this. So they neglected wajibat from the deen, of haqq of the rights of family, rights of poor, the rights of the environment, the rights of the animals. Beat the horse, make the animals suffer, make the family suffer, ignore human beings, because they were busy with, I've got 700 times more reward here. What kind of imbalance does that create in the Muslim? And isn't that what's happened over the last centuries? Actually, that's exactly what's happened. Most of it because you went down this road of, weak hadith and Fadail is all right. Actually, it's not. Because it has consequences. It has consequences. Because people don't follow it like Ibn Hajar recommended. They really believe that I'm going to get 700 times reward if I recite this dua or this dua or do that or stand all day long doing this blah and lie all day long doing this, and it's just adding to the religion, which causes a complete imbalance and shift in the thing. Important thing Ibn Taymiyyah says, it is well known as a principle which must be followed, that from da'if hadith and from conjecture, you cannot bring a ruling. How can you say from your own mind or da'if hadith that something is, never mind fard, everybody's clear from the Aimma, you can't say it's wajib or fard or it is haram from da'if. Yeah, nevertheless, you can't actually say it's mustahab either. What does mustahab mean? You are recommended to do this because you get so many times reward. Because a lot of things are in the mustahab field, aren't they? So if you make something mustahab based on not from what the Prophet ﷺ said, it's conjecture, we don't know. Too many question marks. Yeah? It's rejected that the Prophet ﷺ said that. So to make something mustahab, it is not allowed. Yeah? This is recommended. Why? Because da'if hadith says so. Not acceptable. Only from authentic. So I believe, to finish with, that the best opinion, and which I teach and follow and have believed for many years, is that stay away from da'if hadith. Yeah? I believe it is the responsibility of ulama and teachers, yeah, to clarify that. The public, it's not your responsibility. Yeah? The public's responsibility is at least to question. Yeah? Yeah, but also the public responsibility, especially in social media nowadays, is not to take willy-nilly anything that's been passed around as hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, but to question and to clarify and to ask when you don't know, rather than fall into a trap of also pressing the button and sending it around as well, because it sounds good. Allah musta'an, wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Inshallah we'll continue next time with the first hadith.